Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. When do the Eagles play today? What to know as Philadelphia hosts the Pittsburgh Steelers. A clash of the Commonwealth is coming to Philadelphia. The Pittsburgh Steelers have made their way across the Pennsylvania Turnpike to take on the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field Sunday in a Keystone State showdown. The 11-2 Eagles look to maintain their winning streak and potentially lock in the NFC East title, while the 10-3 Steelers could clinch a playoff spot of their own with a win. Here's what to know ahead of Sunday's game between the Birds and Black and Gold. Kickoff for Sunday's game between the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers is 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time at Lincoln Financial Field. Sunday's game will be broadcast locally on Fox. Nationwide, fans can also stream the game on NFL Plus and Fox Sports. The Eagles have already secured a spot in the playoffs, and on Sunday could clinch the division. To win the NFC East with 3 games left to go in the regular season, Philadelphia has to beat Pittsburgh and the Washington Commanders have to lose or tie against the New Orleans Saints. Or, the Eagles would clinch with a tie against the Steelers and a Commanders loss. The last time the Eagles won the NFC East was in 2022 during their Super Bowl run against the Kansas City Chiefs. Speculation about the relationship between Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts and wide receiver A.J. Brown ran wild this week after Brandon Graham made comments on a radio show about friction between the two following Philadelphia's closer-than-expected win over the Carolina Panthers. Graham quickly apologized for those comments, telling ESPN's Tim McManus that he made a mistake and I assumed that it was something that it wasn't. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith had each voiced their frustration about the passing situation after the Carolina game, during which Brown was seen on the TV broadcast slamming his helmet in his frustration. But according to Hurts and Brown, things are all good between the teammates. Sometimes things change as dynamics change, but for him, he knows I have a lot of love for him, just like I have a lot of love for all these guys, Hurts said last week. Ultimately, he's a guy that's a competitor. He wants to win. He damn sure wants the ball, and he wants to make an impact in the game. I respect that. That's just like all of us. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost a game yesterday to the hottest team in the NFL. That's essentially all that happened, although it made other things more difficult. Winning the AFC North is a little bit tougher, or at least they have fewer paths to claiming it. And they can just about forget securing a first-round bye, though that was already unlikely. But really, all the Steelers did was lose a game, and they are still 7-2 in their last 9. That's the message from HC Mike Tomlin after the game, at least when prompted by some media histrionics. Asked how he can prevent the loss to the Eagles from snowballing into their next games, he had little patience. It's a loss. I mean, let's not get dramatic, Tomlin said, via the Steelers' website. And let's not pretend that the Eagles aren't a 12-2 team on a 10-game winning streak. If the Steelers were going to lose another game, it was probably going to be this one. And given that it's a non-conference game, it was the least damaging in terms of potential tiebreakers. Perhaps most importantly, nobody in the locker room feels beaten. The Steelers know they lost, of course, but they don't feel outclassed or overpowered. They still have the belief that they can compete with the Eagles and teams of that ilk. I felt like we have the talent, the scheme, and everything to compete. We just shot ourselves in the foot too many times tonight, Steelers TE Pat Freiermuth said. They didn't do anything special against us tonight. We just didn't execute for some reason early on. We heard a similar message trickling throughout the locker room. The Steelers caused themselves some of their own problems, though the officials didn't always help. While they suffered their biggest loss of the season, they feel this is a game that got away. And that they could get them back next time, if given another chance down the road. Getting behind the sticks a lot, being in second and long, third and long, that's just going to be losing football that way, Steelers WR Calvin Austin III said. It's very frustrating because we know if we don't beat ourselves, it's a different game. The Eagles are the sort of team the Steelers will face in the playoffs, of course, though they could only see Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. In their own conference, the Steelers will have to worry about the Chiefs and the Bills. They are already amply familiar with the Ravens, of course, another potential postseason opponent. The Steelers know this three-game stretch is a postseason preview, however, particularly the next phase. On Sunday, they face the Baltimore Ravens, and next, host the Kansas City Chiefs. They can lock up the AFC North with a win over the Ravens, but beyond that, there is little else they can do without help. After that, it's more about keeping ahead of the Texans for third place. Eagles' Saquon Barkley has not played since beginning of second quarter. Is he hurt? Update. For the last 13 minutes of the second quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Eagles running back Saquon Barkley didn't take a snap. Barkley left the game after taking a big hit from Steelers defensive end T.J. Watt. Barkley went into the medical tent for a short moment, but he has remained on the sidelines with his helmet in hand. As he waited to return, Barkley did some lower body exercises, including running in place and flexing his knee. Backup running back Kenneth Gainwell replaced Barkley on the rest of Philadelphia's first half drives. He has rushed for 9 yards on 3 carries. If Barkley can't return in the second half, the Eagles will use a rotation of Gainwell and rookie Will Shipley. Barkley rushed for 31 yards against Pittsburgh's defense in the first half. Belichick, there's nobody better at throwing deep ball than Russell Wilson. If you ask Bill Belichick, one of the keys to Sunday for the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be generating explosive plays in the passing game against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not going to be easy with George Pickens out with a hamstring injury, but if anybody can make it happen, it's QB Russell Wilson. Nobody better throwing than Russell Wilson, Belichick said via his Coach podcast on Spotify. Guy's got a great touch on the deep ball. It's been a signature trait of Wilson's for over a decade in the league now, to the point where there's a name for his deep passes. The moon balls have a lot of arch and hang time, but they always seem to drop right in the basket where the receiver can catch them in stride. The statistics back up his excellence in the deep passing game this season. Wilson is third in the league in percentage of his attempts that travel over 20 air yards. His 15.5% is only behind Green Bay Packers QB Jordan Love and Indianapolis Colts QB Anthony Richardson. Despite playing in roughly half the games as most other quarterbacks, Wilson is 23rd in the league in deep passing attempts over 20 yards. His 33 attempts are more than the Steelers' Sunday opponent Jalen Hurts' deep attempts, for example. It's one thing to attempt a lot of deep passes, but Wilson is creating explosive plays at a rate that far exceeds any other NFL quarterback. According to Stephen Patton on X, Wilson is in a category of his own. The Eagles have done a pretty good job of keeping a lid on things during their 9-game winning streak, but there is a lot of youth in that secondary, players who haven't faced a deep passer the caliber of Wilson. Taking into account all explosive plays, Wilson has generated 34 of them this season for 989 yards and 6 touchdowns. When you get this type of praise from Bill Belichick, who has prepared for a Russell Wilson-led offense in the Super Bowl, it's worth mentioning. Calvin Austin III, Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, and Scotty Miller are going to need to step up in Pickens' absence if the Steelers want to end the Philly curse with their first win in the city since 1965. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Bill Belichick? Leave your opinion in the comments.